And I'm here with the fabulous and amazing Kathy Keegan, whose mission in life is to end needless workplace suffering. She's an amazing coach, hilarious improv. I made up a new word.
I
Hilarious
like
at improv,
obviously.
and just an amazing human being. And I'm so honored to be doing this podcast with her. So, hello,
Well,
Kathy.
hello, Elaine. It's so good to see you. She's wearing fabulous glasses for our listeners. They are so awesome. And I'm going to use more words like marvelous, awesome, and amazing because those apply to my very good friend, Elaine Williams, a funny, fabulous woman who has helped me be able to tell my story and who can help you look fabulous on camera, among many other things. She's also a very gifted speaker. She's an inspirational speaker, and she's really helped a lot of people in her short time on planet Earth.
Oh, you're so kind. Stop. No, don't. No,
Should I
stop. No, don't.
stuff on it?
No, you
okay.
look good. You look good.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here because we always laugh, which is how we started this podcast, because we were working on story and we just kept talking and laughing about how we both have done tons and tons and tons of transformational work, personal development work. And we both love coaching and studying how to help people reach their greatest potential. And we laugh because we kept even though, we're still human, hence the name of the podcast. Like, you can do all this training, and yet as a human being, we still have blind spots. And so we wanted to share our journey, because sometimes you can have a lot of training and use it against yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
You won't even realizing it. Yeah.
And the thing is that we've said before that there's a time that if I had discovered I was still human, that would have made my head explode. It would have been so upsetting to me, because there really was a part of me that thought somehow if I read just a little more, if I got up just a little earlier, that somehow I'd be better than, because a lot of my life was spent comparing. And it's a deadly place to be. And to really just start to embrace and enjoy your life and laugh at the fact that you're still human is really what we're aiming for on a daily basis. And that's why we're here.
I love that, Kathy. Like, the minute you said that, I feel freedom, because it's so interesting to me how, at least with my process and what I found with most of the people that I work with, we hide things from ourselves, right? And so I don't like self-pity. So I used to hide it from myself. I'd be super dramatic. I'm just dramatic. I'm very emotional. And I had one of my mentors say, Elaine, when you get like that, that's full of self-pity. And I was like, what? How could you? What? And, it was one of the biggest gifts anybody's ever given me. Sometimes it's very hard to hear feedback, but sometimes when it's given with the intention to contribute, it can be like, whoa.
Right, it's freeing. And it's important that we be able to label that, own it for 90 seconds as long as the emotion lasts, and then move on. Because I think what's happened is we've put certain things in categories that are verboten. You've got to be able to name these things, and the big stuff, the little stuff, and everything in between. And we can't shame people for having the emotions that they're having, because the only way to get through them is to experience them. And I think we've been talking about how an emotion has 90 seconds of life. After that, it's a story that we're telling. And I want to be quick to say that the story that might be perpetuating that emotion may very well be a valid story. So I'm not trying to say if you're grieving or if there's something, it's not to take away the big stuff, but oftentimes if you're having a reaction in the workplace or to a driver who just cut you off, that emotion's going to last for about 90 seconds. They've timed it. Apparently, I don't know if they have emotion races. I'd be interested to know if any emotions last longer, but apparently scientifically 90 seconds. And so you were able to name it and then just let it go, because it doesn't build up. Otherwise it festers. Ooh.
Ooh, I love that, Kathy. You know, Debbie Ford used to talk about that most of our suffering is in the resistance. I don't want to go through this, or I can't deal with these emotions. And when you can practice that sort of emotional education, which is one of the things she used to call it, it's like,
Mm.
oh, you can lean into it and feel it 90 seconds. You know, I'm like, why aren't we teaching this in grade school and, and
Well,
in businesses and,
that's the emotional intelligence that, I think for many years, from an evolutionary standpoint, I don't feel like we felt like we had the room or the space to be able to do that. I think the way we're evolving now is that there is a sense of, wait a minute, that might actually be the superpower. That it might not be following this particular leader or following that, but it might just be understanding where you're coming from, understanding how you're wired, so that you can take care of yourself, and then you can show up as a whole human being to whatever situation that's going on. Like when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh my God, like how am I couldn't, when I woke up, I couldn't see how I was going to be able to do anything today, and so, but there's a voice in the back of my head that just says, all right, so don't be a superhero about this. These are what you do. What's the basic stuff that you need to do in order to get ready, for the call. And so I just did those things. And I might have been doing a little bit like my hair, it's just like, I'm so happy to have gotten a haircut. But yeah, I'm being
it's
human.
sometimes just the little things, in Landmark, they would say so much of life is made up. Why not make up something that's empowering? Because most of the stuff is, I think you and I are always talking about brain stuff. One thing I love about Kathy is she's always kind of geeking out on her topic. And she'll be like, oh, well, I'm actually reading 5 books right now, all about brain function. And she'll go, blah, 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 and I'm like, wow, like she dives deep into her stuff and I love it. And I'm like that with story and speaking and performance and comedy too. But you were talking about why is the significance of your hair? Can you just tell people who don't know your story?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So in in COVID times, one could not get their hair cut. And I was fine with that. I'm not going to risk that. I'm living near my 93-year-old father-in-law. I do not want to risk anything. And so, but my hair, they started to open up hair salons here about a month ago. And I thought, but what kept flipping me out when I looked at myself wasn't so much about the hair itself, but how long my hair was. My hair hadn't been this long since before I had no hair. And that's 10 years ago when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so coming up on a 10-year anniversary of that and having my hair being longer than it's been in 10 years, it did raise a few things, and it actually spurred me to get my hair cut. And also we can start making appointments with doctors here for things other than COVID. And so I've actually found somebody here to follow me in my follow-up care, because I've got another about 4 years on a particular drug to complete my I don't know what you'd call it.
Your cancer
Cancer Academy.
denouement. It's in playwriting, that means like after the climax is sort of finishing into the end of the play. I don't know if that's
Yes.
appropriate or not.
Yes. And
I
this
hope
is
that's
kind of,
not
I love it. It's like
insulting.
I like that. And it feels really good to be able to do those things and to have someone, to have all the information to be able to give to somebody. Of course, my first question is always, is there any way that, or any studies that have come out that would allow me to stop having to be on this medication for another 4 more years? And and they know that no, there's nothing. She said, it'll probably happen by the time you're, finishing this up.
95,
So
right.
yeah, and so it's there. I know that it happened. I have the scar to show. By the way, left breast lumpectomy, because as this one comedian, she wrote this great book called Cancer Made Me like a, I can't even think of the word, made me kind of a conceited person. If you have a kidney and something's going on with the kidney, no one cares if it's left or right. But if it's your breast, people do want to know. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's so interesting. I've never thought which one, because I don't,
You're a girl.
I guess, yeah, interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about you, Kathy, is you use humor. You deal with a lot of stuff with humor. And that's
you
just
too, my dear.
so great. I mean, it's a great coping skill. And which I would love to tell you one of my big ahas,
Yeah,
if I
I want to
may.
hear. Yes, please.
So, I'm coming up on 20 years sobriety, which is like, thank you, God. And I'd always had my anniversary is August 8th, and it's mid-July, and I've never had this much time with myself, and the COVID thing, and as challenging as this time has been, there's also been a lot of silver linings. And I feel like I've gone deeper into my programs, my meditation, and my 12-step work, and it's been awesome and nauseating at times, and navigating, working from home and all that stuff, right? And I have had the pleasure of working with two really good friends on a project. And all three of us have pretty intense personalities. And we have known each other for a long time through some spiritual work. And this has been like the marathon shoot of my life. Like, and I know, like, they always say it's not good to work with friends, or, you gotta. So I did set some guidelines, and I thought that, I knew that we were going to kind of like learn as we go. And I don't usually, I help people with story and all kinds of things, but I don't usually do like high camera 4K, shooting. I will do it, but I don't do it all the time, which means someday I can't wait to just be the director and have my own camera guy. But I have learned basic lighting and, so anyway, so like, but you name it, like, I didn't turn the AC off so you could hear that hum in the background. My microphone, my shotgun microphone is whacked up, and it's been like one thing after another, and then like I gave somebody the card and they took it, but then they couldn't find the file, and and part of it was I should have been like, that's not how I work. We plan for 3 hours, but do not make big plans. Like, you just never know with shooting, because there's always stuff. A plane flies over, the dog barks, the cat who's never meowed ever starts meowing. Like, it's called Murphy's Law.
And plus Mercury retrograde.
Right. And so it's been like, so yesterday I got an invitation to shoot last night. Instead, we were going to do a reshoot on Friday. But so anyway, so I moved. I realized that, okay, you know what? It's for whatever reason, it's going to be better for all of us to do it Wednesday night. So I had to I canceled some things. I moved things around, and there's like a part of me that is like 92%, like, whatever it takes, we're going to get it done. I get it done, And then there's another part of me that's like, oh God, Jesus, like, it's not fair. I mean, we all have that voice, right? And when I feel threatened or insecure, or like I'm not being respected, or if I feel like I'm not being treated well, I can get, Brene Brown calls it like armored up, like, let me suit up. Well, if I have worked around your schedule, and it's not my fault that I can just be very self-righteous and positional. And, and I kept kind of just like, breathe. Because at the end of the day, the commitment is to get it done. and to get it done well. And human beings, we want to go, but it's not my fault, right? And I certainly was feeling some of this the past few days of like, oh my God, we're moving the equipment again, and it's not like that big of a thing. Anyway, so when I walked in the door, and this is like, I don't know how many shoots we've done now. I said, I realized that I've learned a lot about some things, and I just wanted to apologize because I feel like I could have done this better. I wish I had set some parameters better. I wish I had checked the thing right away. Like, I'm looking back and I see how blah, 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 blah. Like, I just walked in, like, and it was organic. It didn't, I hadn't like planned, okay, I'm going to say this. I didn't,
Right.
because conflict scares the shit out of me. I've spent a whole life doing weird twisting myself into pretzels to avoid conflict, which usually creates more conflict. But anyway, but I hadn't planned. It just came out. And then the two of them were like, yeah, we were talking about it too, how because we're friends, blah, 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 blah. But like, just saying that freed me up. I cannot even tell you. I went from being to like, whoa, this is fun. We're doing this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Like, I was completely energized, even though I'm doing a lot of things before I leave town, whatever. I was totally energizing to take responsibility, and not to take responsibility for, no, it's all my fault, but just like to be like, you know what, I realized I can do this better, this better, this better, this better. And because these two women have done a lot of their own work, we were all like, yeah, it was just a really cool, effortless conversation.
It was emotionally intelligent too. I mean,
that's what anyway, I just,
wow.
So for at least yesterday, I was actually my age. I was actually 52 instead of 5 or maybe 8. So like, woo, and I
congratulations. That's huge.
I wanted to share that because I, for anybody listening, I know I have done so much work, and sometimes I would be like, I still am hiring the wrong people, or I'm still attracting, or I'm still dating the same guy, different name, it's the same guy, right? Like, just that feeling of like, and so, and when you're upset, the last thing you want to hear is, oh, it begins with you. Yeah,
but what's your part in this?
When you're upset, it's like, this is, but just like being able to just take a breath and have compassion for myself and have compassion for them. And, if they had been like, well, we have to shoot, if they had been angry and intense, I would have walked in all armored up. So, just the gift of true collaboration. And
that's just gorgeous.
With people that you trust and respect and love. So like, and being human, because in the past at work, so many times I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. I was Supergirl, and just keep it moving, because then you can't get in trouble. So I was always like, just working, scurrying around and working, which is a defense mechanism from my old alcoholic days, So anyway, I just wanted to share, like, I'm so proud of that breakthrough. And, it's a misery of our own making, like, I like the common denominator, like, the common denominator is me. So maybe there's something here for me to learn, right? Like, if life is happening for me instead of to me, wow, there's more for me to learn. Oh yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I was so
excited. So one, that is just fabulous. And I think I just want to say how important it is to be able to share those kinds of things and to celebrate them. This is so important. It's very, very important to acknowledge the successes that we have as they happen, because oftentimes we just brush by them. But that's very big, because basically what happened was you had sort of an ad hoc meeting of all the different ages that Elaine is that reside inside her brain committee, right? They all showed up, the 5-year-old, the 2-year-old, the 15-year-old.
It's not fair!
Exactly. So they all showed up. And here's the thing, they do continue to show up.
What?
That's part of the still human part, right? Because those things show up. And because when you start to say to yourself, well, by now I should, or finally I should, that is not what happens. What's happening is that meeting has convened and you have said, I'm going to bring in the emotionally intelligent one to just sort of say, I see where everybody's coming from, and here's the decision I'm going to make. The decision I'm going to make, committee, is that I'm going to go in and I'm just going to be open with my friends, and I'm going to look at my part, some things that I could have done. And also, because you've developed these kinds of relationships and friendships, they are also on the same wavelength. And so they're able to also say, I see this and I see that. And so you've cleared a blockage, which immediately gives you more energy, because you gave the analogy, it was one of our early broadcasts where you're trying to hold a beach ball down when you're trying to, in the water, and how hard that is to hold that down. That's all your energy going into that place. Right? All your energy, and you have and you have what you have for the day. And when it's gone, it's gone. So it's just celebrate the fact that, what you did was gather all the human within you, all the ages, and then just say, here's what we're going to do. Right?
Thank you, Kathy. I knew you would get it. So awesome. Well, and I wanted to ask you, before Kathy moved pre-COVID, we would have a cultural corner, because Kathy is so cultural. She sings, she goes to museums. She was like singing in this cool choir. Every time I talked to her, she'd be like, oh, we saw this amazing show, or, oh, we went to this really cool thing. And of course, now she's in Chicago. And so, Kathy, I wanted to ask you, now you're saying how your excursions have changed a little bit. Can you enlighten us? Yes, are you going to museums and, coffee shops?
No. As a matter of fact, we here in Chicago are as locked down as they are in the Northeast. And I'm calling this my Jewel Osco PetSmart phase.
And tell us, if some people don't know what Jewel Osco
is a grocery store. And then PetSmart, obviously, because we have the new baby kitty, who's 2, Briar, who jumps on everything. And we also have our 18-year-old lizard, Blue. And so we do have some needs there. And the cultural things have been limited to that, and maybe whatever we can watch on Netflix or whatever we can read. So it's been very different because everybody's canceling their seasons, because people want to stay alive. So if you had an opportunity, there's so many festivals here in Chicago that got canceled, and it is disappointing. And at the same time, hearing from people on the front lines who are dealing medically with what's going on with this, it makes sense. I was just watching a piece the other night on, I forget which country it was, but they finally put Ebola down. They have both a vaccine. I think they even have a cure now for Ebola, which was just rampant and wild. And when COVID came along, everybody there was more compliant because they understood what can happen when something like that goes. And it's interesting, we are very free here in this country in many ways, even though we may not feel like we are. And you're going to feel that to the level of your own experience. Like if you've never had the real flu, you're going to be like, what would you want to get a flu vaccine for? Well, I've had the real flu. And let me tell you something. I've never missed getting the vaccine, never. I'm a great believer in that because it just about killed me. And I was about 30 years old when it happened. So it's all based on what you've experienced. And so if you're lucky enough to not even be able to understand what it might feel like to be that ill, then, you may make a different decision of, I don't need to wear a mask, or I don't need to do this, that, and the other thing. And it's very hard to feel about the collective good and wanting to do things for a group that's greater than yourself. And I think that's a challenge that we're seeing here in this country, and rightly so. People are in a lot of pain, and it can be hard when you feel like other people are getting maybe more attention than you. And the thing that you and I have learned, part of being still human, is to know that there actually is enough for all of us. Not in all areas, because we have created, not us, not Elaine, not me, but we have a culture of scarcity here. And so there are very real issues around there not being enough of something and all of that. At the same time, it also dulls this sense of wanting to share and wanting to believe in the common good. It's a much harder thing to think about, because you might think, well, that's a nice to have. But so for me, culturally, my culture corner has been more about thinking about, well, why am I doing this? What do I want? And not only do I want to eliminate needless workplace suffering, but even human suffering. What do we do and how do we be so that we're creating conditions? And it may mean that for a period of time, I have not enjoyed being, wearing a mask everywhere I go, and having mask, I don't know if it's MACNY, they call it, like when you get, because you get your mask on all day. But it's, I haven't enjoyed that. And at the same time, having had different illnesses, having had cancer, and not being able to see 2 feet in front of me, it's like I would rather take these precautions and be a little miffed and than not. And and there are going to be a lot of situations. There are people who don't have employment right now, and we live in a country that's not supporting people who don't have that, right? And so it can be easy to get angry at someone who's like, well, I'm just going to do this. What do you mean? I don't have a job. And it's all understandable. This is what we're seeing surface culturally, is this fear of not having enough and not having enough, of not having a job and all these other things. And so again, how do you move within this and hold space for all the different feelings that are happening around this? And then also make decisions and say, I want to do this because I want other people to have good things or be well. I don't know if any of that made any sense.
No, it's so great, Kathy. And it inspires me. And I love that, not just workplace suffering, but human suffering. I love that. And the older I get, Sonny, I'm not that old. I just feel kind of old today. Are you giving back? Like if you're surviving, and especially if you're thriving, awesome. And how are you giving back? How are you contributing? That is a question that I just want to kind of lead with, and I have to say, I am really proud of myself, because I am passionate, and sometimes I'll get really into a cause, and then, and I will still give money, but I stop sort of talking about it, or, and then I don't think I'm a total dabbler, but I guess I am a little bit. And I've certainly given money to lots of different, organizations through the years, and I choose what really vibes with me at the time. But, I am really proud that this muscle is, okay, what have you done about your Black education today? Like every day I am, did I meditate? Did I pray? And did I take one action? Like, I'm really serious about this. Like I want to have conversations. I want to have difficult conversations. I want to keep educating myself about all the things that I didn't know growing up, or that as an adult, I sort of looked the other way, and I want to keep working on, signing petitions and passing information and educating myself. And I am watching a couple of things I thought I would just share. I did watch Sex Education, and it's one of the top Netflix 25 lists. It's hilarious and poignant and funny. And oh my God, thank God I'm not a teenager, but it really just was charming on so many levels. And then recently, on a heavier note, I've been listening to Oliver Stone. He has a historic thing about all the history he thinks we should have learned that we didn't. And, somebody was like, oh, is it all conspiracy theories? And I'm like, well, I think he's mellowed with his age. but it is definitely a lot about the war and the military. And, you know, I gotta say, watching it, I kept thinking, it's all these white men. It's all these white men. It's all these white men. And, you know, it makes me excited that women are stepping out and forward, because I do believe we have had to learn to listen and compromise and collaborate instead of going over on somebody. You know, we have learned to work with, to
Mm-hmm.
make a gross generalization. So anyway, it's a great episode thing, and it's sobering and it's hard to watch, but I'm committed to learning. I want to understand how we got where we are, because I feel like when we can study that, it helps us set the context for how we go forward.
Right.
And I know that it's just my interpretation, my perception of my, you know, my sunglasses. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm, you know, I have a lot to learn, and I'm trying to practice listening as much or more than even talking, because, you know, I'm a big talker. So that's what I've been up
Oh,
to.
it's, you know, and the thing is that we're able to do this, and we can continue to do it too, you know, but we also don't have to drive the car at 80 miles an hour all the time, right?
What?
So,
What
so
do you
it's
mean?
important. Well, we have to be able to, you know, take a breather and laugh and all of that. And it doesn't mean you're giving up the cause. So I think that's also important. And also, you know, it just struck me. I joined a book group with the coaches, some coaches here in Chicago, and we're reading a book called Biased, which I had actually read about 6 months ago. I think I even mentioned it on one of our podcasts. And so we're talking about it again, and it is, what strikes me so much is how tired people are of fighting this. And so, in some ways, this new energy and focus is allowing more of us to participate and start and maybe provide energy back to help people who are really just literally exhausted. It's kind of like when you see at the Women's March, you know, 5 years, however many years ago, where it's like this woman who's 100 saying, "I can't believe I'm still protesting this shit." Boop, beep. And, you know, and that's it. And so one of the reasons that you have allies, and that we start to take this on and start to understand the humanness of this and the way we work, I think we have a golden opportunity here to really make some progress, you know, to really, really make some progress and have these discussions. And they're hard. There are people in very, very different places about this. Some are exhausted. Some are like, F this, you know, and some are like, well, aren't you a little chipper cheery, whatever. And the thing is, just stay the course anyway, because the human part of it is that we all want to be loved. We all want to love, you know, and that's not corny. It's a powerful, powerful thing. And a lot of the things that we do by repressing, hiding, that stuff, it makes us sicker, you
Oh,
know. And just being able to do this, and to just again have that space for someone to be able to say something that's just really like, whoa, you said that out loud.
people say that to me all the time. No, I love it. Thank you. That's beautifully, beautifully said, Kathy Keegan. And um, you know, I've been listening to Brene Brown when I do yard work on the weekends. I know I shouldn't brag
I
about my
love it.
glamorous,
You
glamorous life,
stop
but
that.
I love, you know, if I'm gonna do menial work I don't totally love, I listen to really good shit. Beep, beep. I mean, and one of the people, and then every once in a while, if it's really good, I'll listen to it a second time. Oh, crazy. And Brene Brown had somebody on who was talking about, you know, I think it was on a racial, you know, it was talking about racial justice and social justice. And this person was a person of color and or LGBTQ. something. Anyway, I don't remember the name, but they said what was interesting was in the states that have fought against gun control, that have fought the hardest in those particular states, which I don't follow that, but it's like Georgia, you know, the highest number of people who are dying from guns at the highest rate is white men.
Yes.
They're using them on themselves. And
yep.
So I think we got to keep talking about that, because, you know, that needs to come out in the light. And that to me is an example of how separation from others, that tribe is bad, my tribe is good, all of that. It's not just bad for race and economics, it's bad for humans.
Right.
You know, and so I just was inspired, and I want to keep studying that. And I just had an aha. Yeah.
It's a big aha, because how did we get there? You get there by conditioning, and you get there by telling people that there isn't enough.
Right.
Or that something's inferior or whatever. And we can change that conversation. And it's not easy work. You know, it's not easy work. But if we understand from the human perspective, this is how the brain works in humans. The brain works this way in humans.
Right.
We have 150 biases just by being born. It's the way the brain works, not a moral issue, right? And so understanding that, it's okay for you to feel sad and feel left out. It's not okay, but what I mean is there's room for you to feel that, and for us to continue to study larger systemic things that need to be addressed.
Right.
There's a great book by Johan Hari. Oh, don't remember the name of it. Oh,
Johan Hari? How do you spell that last name?
Hari. He has a TED Talk. But he talks about
Hari,
kind of. I don't know if he's related. I'd have to ask.
Funny. Okay.
He's got a British accent, so it's really fun to listen to him.
Okay. I love it. Okay. I could talk to you forever, but
yes,
I have to jump soon.
Yes,
but
me too.
I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. I hope that you got a lot out of our conversation, and I want to remind you, if you are suffering or you know somebody who's suffering and you want to connect and you are looking for a coach, a friend, a guide, a mentor, Kathy Keegan is freaking amazing. And you can find her. You can just email her at Kathy, Kathy, at Kathy, Kathy, Keegan, KathyKeegan.com. That's K's all the way.
MOUSE. And then Elaine, the same thing. Because here's the thing. If we can't help directly, we know a lot of resources.
And I love to connect people. Like, oh, you and you talk. Yes.
Yeah.
Love
you two talk. You talk. Elaine, it is always such a pleasure. So much.
Thank you.
Together with you.
I love it. I can't wait to read. I want to work on these books too. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everybody.
We want to hear from you. Please hit reply and tell us what else you want us to discuss, because you got a lot of wisdom here. You got 50 years of training or more. So
exactly.
Thank you so much. Go out there and keep laughing. Have an awesome day. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.